Dave Birkett here. Into round two, a couple picks into round two. The Lions just made DeAndre Swift the 35th pick of the draft, their first pick of the second round. And look, I know there's always some risk with taking running backs too high. It's a position that a lot of teams can find later in the draft. Teams do a good job mining the undrafted free agency route, even sometimes getting their guy. But this is a pick I like. I got to be honest. I think the Lions got the best running back in the draft. I know that Clyde Edwards-Helaire went 32nd to the Kansas City Chiefs. He was the first running back off the board yesterday. But look, Swift is, maybe he's not quite as complete a player as Edwards-Helaire. I would say that Edwards-Helaire was the best receiving back in the draft. But DeAndre Swift was the best runner. And that's what Matt Patricia wants. That's what the Lions want on offense. And I'm a little surprised they took him. I was sort of led to believe that this might be a little bit high for running backs. When I had talked to some people in the organization over the last couple months, but they absolutely wanted to improve the backfield. They know they need a more balanced offense. They want to run the ball better, and DeAndre Swift should be able to do that. Luke on here says he loves the pick, best running back in the draft. I agree. Jared, why do you think Epinesa is slipping so much? Look, I'm going to get to all your questions in a sec. Let's finish talking about Swift for a second. All SEC first team last year, 1,200 yards. I think he's he's not as good a receiver as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I think when you put DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson in the backfield, a healthy Kerryon Johnson, you're not going to lose much when either one of those guys is in the game. Kerryon Johnson, I think we've seen over the last 2 years, can be a very effective running back when healthy, and the big question on him is health. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. So all of a sudden the Lions have a nice 1-2 punch in the backfield. Look, who knows exactly how they can figure that. Bo Scarborough obviously competing for a spot. Ty Johnson's still around from last year. So, Ty's a guy that I think they maybe had some, thoughts that could have a small role for them going forward. But right now it's Swift and it's Kerryon Johnson, and all of a sudden the Lions, this offense is looking pretty darn good. If that offensive line holds up, they still have questions on the offensive line. They still need to draft a starting guard. I think they'll get somebody to compete for that spot in round 3. All right, thoughts on value. I can't see who just said that. Thoughts on value. I think there were a couple people who said that. Look, the value, maybe a running back is not the best value in this draft or at this pick, I guess, early round 2, number 35. As I said off the top, you can usually find some good running backs later in the draft. But to me, DeAndre Swift was the best running back in this draft, right? And this is the area where you expect him to come off. I think there is value in taking a running back relatively high in the draft. Look, where the lack of value comes into me is when they get to free agency and you don't want to pay for a running back that's used up, right? You don't want to spend money on someone else, a running back that's already had big years behind him. What you want to do is you want to get a guy that you control for 4 or 5 years. You're going to use that running back as much as you can, and then you let him go. To me, that is the way to operate in the NFL. So I don't think this is a bad value here for the Lions. I think running back is a good value in the draft, but I don't think you take a running back super high, top 5, 10, whatever it is. Obviously, those are special players that go that high. Zeke Elliott, Saquon Barkley, and those players are true difference makers, but I think you can find a really good back right in this area, and we've seen it happen a lot of times in the NFL. Nick Chubb, the leading rusher in the NFL last year, fellow Georgia product like DeAndre Swift. I think he went somewhere right around this pick. I don't know the exact pick, but in this general vicinity. All right, I saw somebody mention, the kind of what I had said yesterday, that I had been led to believe that, the Lions weren't going to take a running back this high. Looking forward to talking to Bob Quinn when he talks later on tonight, just to see if the value here was too much to pass up, because I think we all knew they wanted running back help, right? They looked at their roster and they knew they needed to have a better running game. But sorry, I'll put this down here for a second. But I never got the sense that the running back was going to be that high of a priority in the draft from people inside the building. And I don't know if it wasn't DeAndre Swift, if it would have been. I think DeAndre Swift was a guy that they really liked. Obviously, they really liked him, but just knowing from talking to people before, he was a guy that they really liked, and so. I think that's why maybe this value is there. I put Swift on my list of potential day 2 targets because exactly for that reason. Super productive at Georgia. Let me call this up real quick as we're talking here, just his combine numbers, so I don't misquote them. Let's see. I want to see what he ran. I mean, he's not a blazer, right? I mean, this isn't a guy that's running a 4.35 or something like that. But I think he ran a sub 5. Let me 4.48, right? So you're getting a guy with good speed. We're not talking about a 4.65 guy here, right? We're talking about a good athlete. We're talking about a guy that can run. That's a pretty physical player. So I think he adds a lot to this offense. And yes, for the people that have mentioned it, I see Jonathan on here that says let's hit offensive line in round 3 and trade for the Jaguars. And I don't think that the trade with the Jaguars for Ngakoue is in the cards, but I do think offensive line, look, they have to hit it at some point, because you can say all you want about having this really explosive offense and all of a sudden a nice little pairing in the backfield now and Matthew Stafford being back healthy. But if you can't keep those guys healthy, and if you can't give them holes and you can't give Matthew Stafford time to throw, it's going to be all for naught. And so to me, I still have some questions about the right side of the line, including at the right tackle spot. I mean, I think, Big V was... I don't have a problem with the signing. I think it's sort of a lateral move from Rick Wagner, maybe a little bit more of the offensive lineman that Matt Patricia wants, but the guy's never been a full-time starter. He has struggled with some of the speed rushers, the best rushers that he's faced. They don't have a starting right guard yet. I mean, right now we're looking at Kenny, O'Dea Boucher, Kenny Wiggins, who knows, Bo Benchwall if he's ready. So, yeah, I think they need to add somebody else to that competition. So I think round 3, 2 picks coming up in round 3, we're talking about probably both lines. I mean, to me, that might be where the sweet spot is. And I thought there were some really good offensive linemen here available at the top of round 2. Robert Hunt, who I see just went a pick or two ago. The kid from Boise State, Ezra. So maybe there was some more value there. But I like the pick. I mean, again, I think, and Tony brings this up, Crosby at guard. I've mentioned that before. Like, Tyrell Crosby is a guy that they think can play some guard if they need to. Maybe he gets a shot to be in the mix, but if that's the case, they need a swing tackle. Michael mentioned Joe Dahl. Look, Joe's coming off a back injury. He's going to be your starting left guard. But, some people raised some concerns about his long-term health to me this offseason, so we will see what happens with that. Steve, that's a good name to watch. Josh Uche, obviously, I think a lot of people around here know him and know his game from playing at Michigan. Don't forget, he played for the Lions in the Senior Bowl, right? He played for that coaching staff in the Senior Bowl, and I think that's going to weigh into some of their picks this year. So if you get rookies that can contribute right away, all of a sudden you're looking at a team that is getting a boost from its rookie class, its first-year guys, when maybe a lot of teams around the NFL aren't doing that. So that's definitely a name that I think could be in the mix. I think you're looking at a pass rusher, whether it's linebacker or somebody for the interior line, and then you're looking at the offensive line. Those are the 2 picks they have coming up later on today. Those would be the most likely choices for me. I would throw wide receiver as the number 3 pick, or as the third best option there, though I think the depth of this class, you might still be able to get one in round 4. All right, so that'll do it for now. We're going to do another one of these after the Lions' next pick. Hopefully we get Swift on a conference call here before long. I'm just flipping over to my email to make sure I'm not missing that. Talking here with you guys. And no, don't have that scheduled yet. But again, I like the DeAndre Swift pick. Ran for 1,200 yards in the SEC. I think he's a really good back. I think he was at least from the people that I talked to, I think he was the best running back in this year's draft. For the Lions to get him at pick number 35 early in round 2, I think that's a good value, even though I do understand the value of running backs in the NFL maybe not always being there. I think for young running backs, if you find the right one, you take them, you run them for 4 or 5 years, you see what you can get out of them, and then you go from there. So again, appreciate all you guys joining me, hopping on here on Facebook Live. We will do this again after the Lions' next pick, and then after the 3rd round to wrap everything up for the day. Thanks for joining me. Facebook Live, freep.com, Dave Birkett.